morning, or maybe good afternoon or good evening when you're watching this video. This is Ms. Connell, and I will be walking you through Croptions Year 1. So I'm going to start with the screenshot, I'm going to move to the scorecard, and then I'm going to do the CER, and I'm going to do everything in one video. So if you're like, oh, I only needed the CER, just skip forward in the video. I wanted a one-stop shop for all of the information for Year 1. So let's get going. Go to your biology course homepage, and we're going to click on our content. We're going to scroll down in our content to Ecosystem Services, and you can just click on Year 1 if you just want to see Year 1. We changed some stuff up over the weekend to make life easy on you guys as much as possible. So we're just going to read the directions and go from there. So it says how to submit the assignment for this Dropbox, which is just the screenshot of your farm. Is you're going to use the PowerPoint either attached to the Dropbox, which is called Croptions Farm Design, or we made it into a Google Slides because I know some of you guys were having trouble moving pieces. Sorry, I clicked on the Dropbox so that we could see the attachments down here. We're going to take a screenshot of the Croptions Farm, save it to the computer as an image, and upload it. And then we're going to take a screenshot of your Croptions, or you can take a screenshot of your Croptions Farm, put it into a Word document, and save it that way. But then you only upload the picture of your farm. We're going to use the scorecard for the next assignment, so that's why it's linked to this Dropbox. But it has to do with your farm. So you know what? We're going to use the Google Slides just because the link is right there. That seems super easy. But if you don't want to use the Google Slides for whatever reason, maybe you don't have a Google account or you're just not as familiar with it, this is the attachment that you're going to use right here, this Croptions Student Farm Design. That will open up in PowerPoint. All right, so we're going to open with Google Slides. And we're going to follow the directions. This is a little hard to see. I'll fix it right now. It says use the next slide, which is slide 2, as your main land for your Croption farm. It says slide 5 contains instructions for to place crops on your student Croption farm. Use 3 for copying, pasting different options for your farmland, and then make sure that you only spend $2,000. So I'm able to work in this PowerPoint because I made it. But for you, you're going to have to make a copy. So go to File, make a copy. It'll open up your own version of the PowerPoint so that you can work in it. Just click OK, and it'll immediately open a new tab for you. Okay? I'm going to keep working in this same one just for the purpose of time. So notice, you guys, that we can only spend $2,000. But how do I know how much money I'm spending? So if you go back to your Dropbox, go to this Croptions menu, and this Croptions menu tells you how much money you can spend on stuff. Okay? I'm going to put this side by side so we can see. Okay, so we're going to create our farm for Year 1. So here is my farm, Year 1. I am going to use these crops. See how these pieces move right here? We're going to put them onto our farm and only spend $2,000. So here's our price that we need to be paying attention to for sure, so we don't go over budget. And then here are some things to keep in mind as you are making your farm. What are the ecosystem services that those crops provide? What are the disservices? What are some agronomy notes, so things that have to do with agriculture? And notice that these 3 are highlighted in green. These 3 in green are only going to be placed in this middle section right here in these dotted boxes. All of these other crops can be placed in these bigger sections. So I'm going to do just a sample farm that you can do however you choose, and I'm not really going to pay attention to price until the end here. So for every 2 trees, you can place 1 crop. All right, so I'm going to do blueberries and tomatoes and corn. And all I'm doing, you guys, is copy-paste. I'm using Control-C and Control-V on my keyboard, but if you don't know how to do that, you can simply just click on it, right-click on it, and it should ask, sorry, my computer's going so slow, copy, and then you paste it in. Okay. Keep making your farm. Again, these 3, the riparian buffer, the floral strip, and the honeybee hive, can only be placed in these dotted boxes here. Okay? All right, So you do not have to fill every square. I'm going to leave this one blank and this one blank, but let me add up how much I spent. So I spent $500 on blueberries. I spent $200 on corn because I used 2 of them, so that's $700. I did 2 tomatoes, which is $600, which it brings me to $1,300. 200 on bees, which is $1,500, and a floral strip, which is $1,600. So I'm still under budget. If you need to pull up a calculator, pull up a calculator. All right, so I don't need my menu anymore because I made my farm. I'm going to take a screenshot of this. And to do that, I'm going to go to my Start menu, and I'm going to type in Snipping Tool. Your snipping tool should already be built into your computer, and all you need to do is open it up. Again, my computer is going so slow. I'm going to pause. Oh, there it is. Okay. Click New. Notice that it kind of goes fuzzy, and you get this cursor. Drag it around your farm, File, Save As, and save it somewhere you're going to find it. I always encourage students to make a biology folder somewhere where you'll never, ever, ever lose it. So make a biology folder, save it as Farm Screenshot. Just so you guys know, we see these file names, by the way. So don't name it something dumb. Okay, here we go. There's my screenshot. We're going to save it. And now you can go back to the Dropbox. For you guys as students, here I'll show you. For you as students, there's a button that says Upload, and you can click the Upload button and drop your submission in there, and that's it. Make sure you click Submit, and that you've selected the right assignment. Okay? So here in my Dropbox, oh yeah, I always forget that it looks so different for you guys. Here in my Dropbox, and we're going to click Upload, find the capture that we just took. This is always a good tool, the date modified, but I remember that I saved it as that. Open, and then there's a Submit button. Click it. Okay, first assignment done. All right, so let's go on to the scorecard. Again, we were running into issues with people not being able to access the scorecard, and so we've also made that into a Google slide as well, or I'm sorry, Google Sheets. And so we can, there's actually a PowerPoint we made for it, but I guess we should put the, oh, you guys can't see that yet, so that doesn't work for you. I guess we should put the Google Sheet scorecard in that year 1 as well, so we will. Your Google Sheet will be in year 1 for the scorecard in this section. I haven't placed it there yet, so I'll go do that right now. But I'll open up the scorecard in Google Sheets. It'll be called the scorecard very similarly. Okay. Just click Open with Google Sheets. Again, because I'm the owner, I'll be able to write directly in here. But because you're not, you're going to have to go back to File, Make a Copy. Okay, so you will need your picture of your farm for this one because you will be filling this line out using your farm. Please note that you're only changing the white boxes. And notice why I say that. See how this box is highlighted? It tells me what's in that box. It says Croptions Scorecard Year 1, right? That's this box. If I click on one of these boxes that's not white, notice there's a formula in there. And we put the formulas in there so that you guys don't have to do math. Yay, right? That's super exciting. So don't touch the boxes that aren't white because then you'll have to go back and start all the way over from the beginning. So I'm going to pull up my farm picture that we just took, and we're going to fill out this first line of information. It says number of units I bought. How many are a woodlot? Well, any of the empty spaces that you have are going to be considered woodlots. So I'm going to say 1. Okay, I have 1 woodlot. So I'm going to put that in there. And that's important that you add in that you had something left blank because you can make money from a woodlot. Okay, how many corn do I have? I have 2. So I'm going to put the number 2 in my corn box because I planted 2 crops. All right, tomatoes. I have 2. blueberries, I have 1. I don't remember what I did here at the end. I have 1 honeybee and 1 floral strip. Okay, so there we go. If you guys notice, those are all very small numbers because that's what you planted on your farm. And if you notice down here for I paid, it auto-populates for you. And this is important. If you scroll over to the totals column, there's a total column that tells you how much you spent. And remember, your budget was $2,000. So take a look at that total column. And if you are over $2,000, you need to fix your farm. Okay, fix or take something out here, make a change to where you're not over budget. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to calculate our year 1 profits. All right, so if you guys notice, these 2 boxes here are white, so we need to fill those out. Everything else is already calculated for your other crops. These 2 are different because for tomatoes and blueberries, if you look at this box, says if I have at least 1 beehive touching that unit, I also get this little bonus number, okay? So I have 2 tomatoes that I planted, right? It tells me that my profit per unit is $500. So I get $500 per tomato I planted. That's $1,000 right there. But if my tomatoes are touching a beehive, I get an additional $250. Unfortunately, I did not plant my tomatoes next to a beehive. So I cannot get the additional $250, but I still get $1,000 because 500 times 2 is 1,000. So I'm going to put 1,000 in my box there. Then I'm going to move on to blueberries. I get $800 for every blueberry I planted. So I get $800 for sure because I only planted 1. And if my blueberries are touching honeybees, I get an additional $400. And thankfully they are. There's my honeybees, there's my blueberries. So I'm going to take 800 times 1 plus 400, which gives me 1,200. Okay? All right, my profits are complete. Now I'm going to go on to climate costs. So if you are watching this after the fact, meaning that you have not seen this live in Class Connect, that means that you need to be assigned a cost, okay? So back in my Year 1 Dropbox, I have a completing the scorecard presentation. You don't have to open it if it doesn't make you open it. If it just lets you preview it, that's fine. I'm going to open it just for the sake of this video because it tells you what your climate costs will be. Because there's a variety of costs that you can have as a result of owning your farm. Okay, so here is my presentation. Again, you don't have to edit it, you're just reading through it. So for your climate costs, what will your unexpected cost be? Look at your last name. The first letter of your last name will tell you what climate costs you have. So I'm a C, so I'm going to pay attention to this line and forget everything else. Depending on what your last name is, go to whatever slide it tells you, and you're going to complete that slide. So I'm going to do torrential rain because this one's the hardest. But again, this might not apply to you as far as what cost you have. However, how to fill out your scorecard will be the same. Okay? So we're looking at torrential rain. First of all, it says if you have a riparian buffer strip or don't have a riparian buffer strip. You need to go look at your farm. Did you include a riparian buffer strip? I, unfortunately, did not. 0. Womp womp. So that means that I'm going to have to use the line that pertains to right here, this top line. If you notice, those numbers are higher, so I'm going to get more of a deduction. Yikes. Okay. So if you get torrential rain, you're only using the top line, and you're going to ignore the bottom line because obviously you don't have a riparian buffer strip, so that doesn't apply to you. So I'm going to ignore the bottom line for my farm. You have to look at your farm to see what matters. If you have a riparian buffer strip, you use the bottom line and not the top line. Okay, so it depends on what you planted on your farm. Okay, so I get -30 for every woodlot I have. I have 1, so I'm going to have to use that number. I do have corn, I do have tomatoes, and I do have blueberries, so I'm going to get high deductions here. All I'm going to do is take these numbers, you guys, and plug them into my scorecard. So my -30 is going to go in my woodlot right here for climate costs. You have to put a negative number. Don't put a $, just put the number. okay? For corn, I think it was 120. Oops, see how that is a weird number? It's because I entered it weird. You have to put a negative number. Make sure you're entering your numbers correctly. Then I need negative 90 for tomatoes and negative 150 for blueberries. Yikes. Did I say negative 150? I think it did. Okay. So all I did, you guys, was I just plugged those numbers in right across in my climate cost. So if you're for drought, that's easy. You just plug those numbers in. But notice, if you didn't plant corn, you're not going to put a deduction for corn. You can't get deducted for something you didn't plant. So let's say that you don't have blueberries for late frost. You only put in tomatoes. Then you put your tomato deduction in there, okay? Do not apply it to the costs that you don't have. All right, there's my climate cost input. Literally just took those numbers straight from that slide into my scorecard. Let's do pest and disease. This is going to be the same concept. It's also in this presentation. It says you're going to use your last name again, okay? So I have to go to plague of locusts on slide 8 and then skip to slide 12 when I'm done. You guys go to whatever last name you have. Here's my plague of locusts. I have another, use this line if you blah, blah, blah. So, do I have a woodlot? Yes, I do. Whew. So I get to use this bottom line instead of the top one. Look at those deductions up there. Those are high. So if I have a woodlot, I'm going to use the bottom line, and I'm going to insert it into my white boxes for pest and disease cost on my spreadsheet. I have all 3 of these planted, so I'm going to use all 3 of these numbers. So I'm going to just copy these numbers that apply to me because I have a woodlot into my scorecard. 80, 100, 160. I got to remember it. Okay, there we go. So there were only deductions for corn, tomatoes, and blueberries, corn, tomatoes, blueberries, and any other box you don't fill in, guys, needs to stay at 0 for the formulas to work. All right, almost done with the scorecard. So now our penalty total. Our penalty total is an additional deduction that we're getting. So this is going to be calculated different ways, again, depending on do you have a riparian buffer or not. And remember, on my farm that I planted, I did not plant a riparian buffer. So I'm going to be using this line up here, and I'm going to ignore these percentages down here. If you do have a riparian buffer, use this row and forget these percentages up top. Okay, so only pick one row depending on if you have a riparian buffer to look at as far as the percentages go. And then also note that these percentages only apply to the crops that you planted. So I didn't plant cows or use cows, so I'm not going to worry about this row or this column. All right, let's look over here. So in order to calculate my deductions, I'm going to pull up my calculator on my computer so you guys can see how this works. I'm going to take my year 1 column subtotal, and you guys, it tells you how to do the math right here. The column subtotal times the percent penalty. So here's my subtotal, 400, and I'm going to have to multiply by 20%. I'm losing 20%. Okay, so to do this, I'm going to type into my calculator 400 times 0.20, and I get 80. So I'm going to enter 80 in my box there. For my next crop, I have 620 here. I'm going to type in 620 times, and I'm using that top row because I don't have a riparian buffer, 0.10, which is 62. Okay, something to note, guys, for those of you that are using this 5%, when you enter it into your calculator, you need to enter 5% in as 0.05. Don't do 0.5 because that's 50%. So you'll be losing more money that way. It's 0.05 for 5%. Okay, your scorecard is complete. Look over here. It tells you if this number is red, that means that you have lost money on your farm. Yikes. If it's, well, actually on sheets, I don't know if it does this, but I know it does it on Excel. In Excel, the number turns red if you're below a number. If you're black, it means that you made money. Okay? This number is interesting. I'm going to have to come back and look at this. Oh, okay, I remember now. Because I didn't spend the full $2,000. That's why I was confused. So I made $338 because I made $1,938 total minus the $1,600 that I put in. So I made $338. Whoop, whoop. That's going to be important for year 2. So save your scorecard because you're going to need it for your CER. And you guys, I said that this video would go through the CER, but it's actually, we have it a separate video just for the CER that's a lot more in detail that I'm going to let you guys refer back to. Keep this scorecard. You might want to zoom out because you're going to need a screenshot of it. Make sure you get the whole scorecard in your screenshot. So I know this is super small, but I'd rather see this and have your total than just see some and not all of it. So I will, if I know technology enough, I will link the video to the CER here at the end of your help video for your scorecard and your screenshot. So I hope that helped you get through year 1. We're starting year 2 on Monday, September 23rd. So we hope you join us in class to catch up on that.